Iowa men's basketball has officially released its 2022-2023 non-conference schedule. We've got everything you need to know about Iowa's 11 opponents coming up in just moments. An official preview of Iowa's non-conference schedule. But first, a reminder to please hit that like button, that thumbs up button. And while you're at it, please subscribe to the channel. Great content all year round. We've got live shows. We just did a show the other day with the one and only former quarterback Chuck Hartlieb. He joined us for a special edition of Hawkeye Hangout, a live show. We have live segments on recruiting. We have live interviews with current players, former players, coaches, etc. Great stuff all season long, all year long, even during the off season, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So please hit that like button and please hit the subscribe button. Also want to thank Under the Kitchen, Randy Engel and his work down in Mitchellville, doing tremendous artwork. If you've not checked out his stuff, visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook. Beautiful prints, great gifts, especially as we approach the busy time of the year with fall camp just weeks away. Check out Randy Engel down at Under the Kitchen on Facebook. So Iowa basketball releases its non-conference schedule. Some of these matchups we already knew about. We'd known about the Duke matchup in Madison Square Garden. Nowadays, these things get leaked on social media early. But now we have a full picture of Iowa's 11 games in the non-conference. Of course, they'll also get an exhibition as well that will not count. But without further ado, let's get down to the schedule. First on the schedule, Bethune-Cookman, the mighty Bethune-Cookmans on November 7th. As you see here on the right, they finished 10th in the SWAC last year. Pretty poor ranking as it relates to the net, which is crucial for NCAA tournament seeding. And of course, you're going to be graded based upon quadrants. We're not going to go through those 4 quadrants right now, but we know that based on these numbers, Bethune-Cookman is a clear quad 4 matchup. Of course, they're not going to be looking at last season's numbers, so perhaps they improve. But all of the numbers you're going to see on these rankings are based upon last season. That's what we have to go on. So final net ranking last year of 337, a final KenPom rating of 333. They do return their top 3 leading scorers, including guard Joe French, who withdrew from the NBA draft. He averaged 15.8 points per game. This is a good backcourt, folks, and if they improve even more, this is a good test early for a group of point guards who, you lose Jordan Bohannon, you lose Joe Toussaint. This is going to be a good test early. I don't think it's going to be a great test given the fact that this is just not very good team, and I doubt they're going to make a huge jump. But a good test for Aaron Eulis and maybe even a guy like Amarian Nimmers. Certainly DeSante Bowen will play, but maybe even Nimmers and Dante Eldridge. Maybe they'll get a shot in Game 1. Game 2 on the schedule, it's North Carolina A&T. A bit of a better ranking here. They did finish 9th in the Big South, but they finished in the top 300 of both the net and KenPom. They do return their leading scorer and rebounder in sophomore Marcus Watson, who averaged 12.6 points per game and 6 rebounds per game. This game will take place on November 11th. And keep in mind that Iowa opens up with a couple of games that are very winnable in Bethune-Cookman and North Carolina A&T, but this is probably Iowa's most difficult non-conference schedule of the Fran McCaffrey era. He has said that pointedly. I think that's probably true. I did go back and look at some other schedules, and I think that's accurate. Collectively, it's the best schedule they've had. So these first 2 games are crucial for Iowa to kind of get their feet under them, get these new guys integrated, including DeSante Bowen, give guys like Josh Ogundele and Riley Mulvey some confidence. This will be good. Seton Hall coming up on November 16th. They finished 5th in the Big East. This is Iowa's first test. This is part of the Gavitt games on the road against a very good Seton Hall team. 5th in the Big East last year, top 50 in net, 52 in KenPom. They were an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament, lost to TCU, who, by the way, I had went on the record before the tournament started, and I thought that TCU was going to beat Arizona. Had the officials not intervened, the Horned Frogs would have advanced past the Wildcats of Arizona, but that's a discussion for another day. So they lose to TCU, who is a very good TCU team. Iowa may play TCU this year as well. Seton Hall does lose its top 2 leading scorers, though. That's Jared Roden, who averaged nearly 16 points a game, and Bryce Aiken, who averaged nearly 15 points a game. So this is a game on paper. You look at last season, this is going to be a difficult one for Iowa, but it's a very winnable game. And if you're taking a pick right now, I'd take Iowa based upon the departures of their top 2 leading scorers. We know Iowa loses both Jordan Bohannon, Keegan Murray, Joe Toussaint as well, but I still like Iowa in this game, but it's early. Seton Hall has a good class coming in. Not a great class, but a good recruiting class coming in. And so they'll regroup. But I would take the Hawkeyes early. But my prediction, I'll keep most of my predictions on the back burner for now. Number 4 on the docket, they'll take on Nebraska-Omaha. Remember the last time Iowa played? I think it was the last time Iowa played Uno. Nebraska-Omaha. They lost several years back. That was not a good memory for Iowa. They finished 8th in the Summit League last year, won 5 games all season. This is not a good Mavericks team. They finished 346 in the net, 344 in KenPom. I guess we could look at it this way. The good news is they return some guys. The bad news is they return some guys, right? I mean, this team is going to have to really make a jump. Frankie Fiddler at 12.8 points per game and Felix Lametti at 10.4 points per game. Both of those guys return for Uno, and they'll travel to Carver Hawkeye Arena for that game. Another very winnable game. Iowa, you're going to want to get those young guys involved. Josh Dix, if he's healthy by then, we hope he is. He's going to see a lot of time, I would think, against teams like Nebraska-Omaha. Clemson, part of the Emerald Coast Classic down in Florida. So this is a neutral site game. Clemson, not a very good ACC team last year, although not terrible. 10th in the ACC. Remember, it's a deep conference. 81 in the net, 71 in KenPom. They do return 3 of their top 4 leading scorers. They have a very good recruiting class coming in, according to 247 Sports, 31st in the country. And keep in mind, for a program that's part of a football-dominant school, that's a very good class, 31st in the country. So Clemson will provide some challenges for Iowa. Keep in mind, this is a 2-day tournament, so Iowa will have to play a back-to-back. But Clemson is the right draw. If I'm a Hawkeye fan, I'd rather Clemson than Cal, who would have been the other option. They were not going to be playing TCU in that first game. TCU far too good, and hopefully Iowa gets TCU in the next game. If they take care of Clemson, TCU takes care of Cal, then that will be the opponent. But that leads us to the 6th game on the schedule. That's either Cal or TCU. You see last season a couple notes for both of these teams. Cal finishing 10th in the Pac-12, 150th in the net, 142nd in KenPom. So clearly Clemson was the better draw for Iowa's first-round game. TCU is the better draw for the second-round game. Hopefully the Horned Frogs can take care of business against the Bears. TCU finished 5th in the Big 12. As I mentioned earlier, had a real good shot of advancing to the Sweet 16 with a win over Arizona. I believe that game went to overtime. The refs, I thought really it was just a disgraceful performance by the guys in stripes. But TCU still finished with a net of 33 and a KenPom of 26, nearly a top 25 team, according to KenPom. If I'm a Hawkeye fan, I'm rooting huge for TCU. And boy, that'd be a great, great add to the schedule if they can get TCU and Clemson back-to-back down at the Emerald Coast Classic in Florida. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, as always, Ascent Nutrition, and their algae oil DHA, along with their Ascent coffee, their pine pollen, that natural food. All of these products benefit your overall mental health. Many of them benefit your immune health. This is great stuff, folks, and you can get a 10% discount off your total order. It's supporting this channel and former Iowa graduate Lance Shuttler. Again, visit goascentnutrition.com and check out these great products from Lance Shuttler and Ascent Nutrition. Georgia Tech, part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. This will be a home game in Carver for the Hawkeyes. Georgia Tech, not a very good ACC team, as you can see. 14th in the ACC, 157 in the net. Remember, there's 15 teams in the ACC for basketball, so this was not a good team. Remember, Georgia Tech made the tournament just a couple of years back. They took a step back this past year. Their top 2 leading scorers depart in Michael DeVoe and Jordan Usher, both of those guys averaging 14 plus a game. Iowa needs to win this game. Georgia Tech, I didn't see anything on paper that tells me they have a ton coming in. This is a game Iowa needs to take care of at home. If they lose this game at home, it's going to be counted as a bad loss. And here's the deal. We don't know exactly what, maybe Georgia Tech will improve, but a game at home like this, you need to win. And this is a bit unfortunate. The one unfortunate part of the schedule release, I think a lot of Iowa fans were hoping that Iowa would get a better game than the Georgia Tech game. I'm not quite sure. Usually the Big Ten ACC Challenge is based upon teams that are projected on the same level, so to speak, or even looking back at last season, teams that finished on a similar level in their respective conferences, and yet Georgia Tech, Iowa somehow get matched up with one another. But Iowa needs to take care of business in this game and move on to the biggest game of the non-conference, and that is the Duke game out in New York City at the Jimmy V Classic on December the 6th. We know the story with Duke. Finished first in the ACC, top 10 in both net and KenPom. They did lose to North Carolina in the tournament. That was in the Final Four. They've had 5 players drafted, so they do have some attrition. Paolo Banchero, Mark Williams, A.J. Griffin, Wendell Moore Jr., Trevor Keels, all taken in the NBA draft. That's an astounding stat to think that they had 5 guys taken in the draft. They also have the number 1 recruiting class coming in, so they're going to reload. Four 5-star guys coming in for Duke, according to 247 Sports. And, they've got a couple 4 stars as well. Iowa Duke in MSG. What a matchup this is going to be. And if Iowa could somehow steal one out in the Big Apple, boy, that would launch things for Iowa basketball heading into the conference season. But the conference season has to wait because Iowa State's on the docket just 2 days later. What a rebound. You're talking about playing one of the best teams in the country, potentially the best team in the country, in Duke on the 6th. And then 2 days later, you have to play who I believe will be a good Iowa State team. They reload with a bunch of transfers. This is kind of what their MO is, whether it be under Fred Hoiberg or under now TJ Otzelberger. But this is a tough one. You bounce back with the Cyhawk series. So it is at home this year for the Hawkeyes. We know Iowa went to Ames, lost last year. Iowa State finished 7th in the Big 12. They struggled through part of the Big 12 conference season last year, but ended up with a final net of 41, Ken Pom of 43. They went to the Sweet 16, advanced to that Sweet 16, beating Wisconsin, losing to Miami, Florida. They do lose Isaiah Brockington, who averaged 17 and 7. Tyrese Hunter transfers out. He was considered the heir apparent in the future of that program, so that's a big blow to the Cyclones. But TJ Otzelberger's done a nice job on the recruiting trail. They have Taman Lipsey coming in from Ames, who I thought is a little bit underrated. You know, these guys end up committing somewhat early, and I think their stock kind of takes a hit. Taman Lipsey, a really good 3-star recruit out of Ames High. They bring in Osunniyi, who Iowa was in on briefly from St. Bonaventure, a transfer. Jaron Holmes, also a transfer from St. Bonnie, and then 2 transfers, Hassan Ward and Jeremiah Williams. So they reloaded, and last year they were able to live off the transfer portal with guys like Gabe Kalsher, who returns, Isaiah Brockington, I mentioned. They have this innate ability to use the transfer portal. At least they have, whether it be under Hoiberg or Otzelberger. We'll see if he can keep it going. But this is a tough 1-day break before you hit to the Cyclone game. Duke and Iowa State in 3 days. That's a tough stretch for the Hawkeyes. Southeast Missouri State, second to last game of the non-conference season. This is a decent team, folks. Now, you're going to look at the net and you're saying 250 in the net, 244 in Ken Pom. That's true, but if we're comparing them to teams like Uno or teams like North Carolina A&T, this is a pretty good team. And keep in mind, a pretty good Ohio Valley Conference finished 4th in the conference behind the likes of Belmont, Morehead State. This is a good team, not great, good team. Top scorer did transfer to Missouri State. That's Eric Reed, who averaged over 16 points per game. They do return their second leading scorer, a really quick point guard. Iowa's going to be missing Joe Toussaint potentially in this game. We'll see if Iowa's point guards can stick with Philip Russell, who averaged nearly 14 a game, stands at just 5'10", brings some speed and quickness to the Southeast Missouri backcourt. But Iowa should be able to take care of business here. And this is a game where you're just avoiding injury as you're heading into the conference season. They have one game after this. You hopefully can sit back and relax in the second half of this one. And speaking of sitting back and relaxing, oh my goodness. I said it earlier. I think this is the toughest Iowa basketball schedule, non-conference schedule Fran has had, but this is an absolute travesty. Iowa plays Eastern Illinois, who's one of the worst Division I teams, at least last year, on paper that I've ever seen, ever evaluated. They finished last in the Ohio Valley. Their final net was 356 out of 358 Division I teams. Their final Ken Pom was even worse at 357. They averaged just 56.3 points per game, which ranks 357 out of those 358. Their leading scorer averaged 8.9 points per game, and he was a senior. He's done. He's gone. Eastern Illinois is one of the worst teams on paper. I hope they improve for the sake of Iowa's schedule. They are just 1 year into Marty Simmons' head coaching career at Eastern Illinois. And unless I missed something on the leading scorer for Eastern Illinois, he did graduate, I believe. I don't believe he's coming back for another year. So I really don't know what to make of that last game other than this. Use it to play guys like Amarion Nimmers, Dante Eldridge. You hope that you can get Josh Dix, DeSante Bowen plenty of time. perhaps even the big men. I don't know what Eastern Illinois is going to be able to. I mean, to me, this is a game where you're just trying to get out of there without injuries, right? And if I'm Iowa, knowing Fran, how he likes to play and the lineups he likes to put out there, he's not going to start a walk-on, right? He's probably going to start his guys, but I would hope within the first few minutes of the game, first 10 minutes of the game, you're able to take out guys like Chris Murray, Patrick McCaffrey, etc., and say, we're just going to ride our guys, because we're talking, again, historically bad results, historically bad stuff. And you would expect Eastern Illinois to improve in year 2 under Marty Simmons, but how much are you going to improve from 357 with attrition? And by the way, I looked and I don't see any activity in the transfer portal from Eastern Illinois. Now, maybe 247 Sports is missing it, but according to 247 Sports, nothing from the transfer portal for Eastern Illinois. So I don't know how they make a big jump. Iowa should be able to put it on cruise control or in maybe even in neutral and win in late December to head into the conference season. So there you have it. Iowa's non-conference schedule, highlighted by the likes of Duke, Iowa State, potentially TCU and Clemson, Seton Hall as well, who lost some guys, but should be good. A good team in the Big East. They reload with some good recruits as well. So we'll wait to see what Iowa's conference schedule looks like. But good news on the Iowa basketball front that they're going to be in a good position for tournament seeding and tournament status based on non-conference scheduling, which hasn't always been the case. Last year, pretty weak non-conference schedule in general, right? They had opportunities to get good wins. They got a good win at Virginia, but that was not a great Virginia team. They had an opportunity to good win at Iowa State, lost big. There'll be plenty of opportunities for good wins this November and December. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of the show. A reminder to please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will talk to you soon.